She had been hiding for 7 months when he finally found her in that small coastal town where she thought she was safe. Jade Williams was standing in the produce section of a tiny grocery store, one hand resting on her swollen belly, the other reaching for apples, when she felt the air in the room change completely. That familiar electricity that had always preceded his presence crackled across her skin like a warning she had learned to recognize. She turned slowly, her heart already pounding before her eyes confirmed what her body already knew. Park Min-ho stood at the end of the aisle, frozen like a statue carved from fury and disbelief. His dark eyes dropped to her pregnant belly, visible even beneath the loose sundress she wore, and she watched his face transform through shock, confusion, calculation, and finally a rage so profound it seemed to radiate from him in waves. "You're pregnant with my baby," he said, his voice deadly quiet in a way that was somehow more terrifying than any shout could have been. "And you didn't tell me." Jade's hand instinctively covered her stomach, protecting the life growing inside her from the man who had fathered it. The man she had married in secret, loved desperately, and fled from 7 months ago when she discovered who he really was. Min-ho. His name came out as barely a whisper, carrying all the fear and longing and heartbreak she had been running from since the night she disappeared. 7 months. He moved toward her with the controlled grace of a predator who knew his prey had nowhere left to run. "You've been hiding from me for 7 months, carrying my child, and you thought I wouldn't find you eventually." The other shoppers had sensed the danger and quietly melted away, leaving them alone in an aisle that suddenly felt like a cage with no exits. Jade backed up until her shoulders hit the display of fresh fruits behind her. "I can explain," she started, but he cut her off with a sharp gesture that silenced her immediately. You can explain why my wife vanished in the middle of the night without a word, why I've spent 7 months searching every corner of this country for a woman I thought might be dead." His voice cracked on the last word, and for just a moment she saw past the anger to the anguish beneath it. The sight nearly broke her resolve, but then she remembered why she had run. "I found out what you really are." Her voice grew stronger as righteous anger began to replace her fear. "I found out that my husband, the man I loved, was the head of one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the country. And instead of talking to me about it, you ran. What was I supposed to do? Ask you nicely if you were a crime lord and hope you'd tell me the truth." He was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, the same scent that used to make her feel safe and desired. Now it just reminded her of everything she had lost. "You were supposed to trust me. You were supposed to give me a chance to explain instead of disappearing like a ghost and taking my child with you. I didn't know I was pregnant when I left." The words hung between them, a small truth that shifted the dynamics of their confrontation slightly. His eyes searched her face for deception and found none. "When did you find out?" "3 weeks after I left. I was already in hiding, already terrified, already convinced that you would kill me if you found me." Something in his expression shattered at her words. "Kill you? You thought I would hurt you. I didn't know what to think. I found files in your office, Min-ho, reports about people who had crossed your organization, people who had disappeared or worse. What was I supposed to believe?" "You were supposed to believe that I would never, never harm you or any child of ours." His hand reached toward her belly, then stopped, as if he wasn't sure he had the right to touch her anymore. "You were supposed to believe that you were the one person in this world I would burn everything down to protect." Tears were streaming down Jade's face now, all the emotions she had suppressed for 7 months breaking free at once. "How could I believe that when I didn't even know who you really were?" He stepped back, giving her space to breathe, though his eyes never left her face. "We're not doing this here. You're coming with me and we're going to have a real conversation somewhere private. I'm not going anywhere with you." That wasn't a request. His voice had hardened again, the momentary vulnerability replaced by the commanding presence that had built an empire. "You are my wife, you are carrying my child, and you are coming with me if I have to carry you out of this store myself. You can't just, I can and I will. The only question is whether you want to make a scene in front of the gathering crowd outside or whether you'll come quietly and let us handle this like adults." She glanced toward the store's windows and saw the black SUVs that had materialized in the parking lot, the men in dark suits who were clearly his people. He had brought an army to collect her. "I'm not going back to that life. You don't get to make that decision alone, not anymore." His hand finally made contact with her belly, palm flat against the curve where their baby grew. "This child is mine too, and I won't let you disappear again." The touch sent electricity through her entire body, awakening memories and feelings she had tried desperately to bury. She remembered the night this baby was conceived, the way he had held her like she was precious, the words of love he had whispered against her skin. Had any of that been real? Or had she been a fool falling for a monster disguised as a man? "12 hours," she said finally. "Give me 12 hours to pack and say goodbye to the life I built here, then I'll come with you voluntarily." "No, Minho, you had 7 months to run, you don't get 12 more hours." He took her hand, his grip firm but not painful. "My car is outside. Your things will be collected and shipped wherever we end up, but you are not leaving my sight again until this is resolved." She could have fought harder, she could have screamed, called for help, made a scene that might have drawn police attention. But she was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending she didn't still love the man standing before her despite everything she had learned about him. And she was tired of raising this baby alone, even if that's what she had convinced herself she wanted. Fine. The word came out defeated, exhausted. But you're going to answer every question I have. You're going to tell me the truth about everything, and then I'm going to decide what happens next. Fair enough. He guided her toward the exit, his hand protective on the small of her back. Let's go home, Jade. Where is home now? The penthouse in Chicago? Somewhere safer, somewhere we can talk without interruption. He opened the door of the waiting SUV for her, somewhere you can finally understand who I really am. Drive took hours, heading north through increasingly rural landscape until they reached a property she had never seen before. A beautiful estate nestled in the mountains, surrounded by security but somehow managing to look peaceful rather than threatening. I bought this 6 months ago, Min Ho said as they pulled through the gates. After you left, I needed somewhere to come when the searching got too hard, somewhere to imagine bringing you when I finally found you. You never stopped looking, not for a single day. He turned to face her fully. Do you have any idea what it did to me, waking up to find you gone, finding your wedding ring on my pillow and nothing else? No note, no explanation, nothing but the echo of you in every room of our home. She hadn't thought about it from his perspective. She had been so consumed by her own fear and betrayal that she hadn't considered the pain she might be causing him. I was scared, Min Ho. I was terrified and confused, and I didn't know what else to do. You could have trusted me. You were lying to me every single day. How was I supposed to trust you? I wasn't lying. I was protecting you. Those aren't the same thing, and you know it. He sighed heavily, suddenly looking exhausted in ways that aged him visibly. You're right, they're not the same thing, but I need you to understand why I made the choices I made. They entered the house, a beautiful space that managed to be both elegant and comfortable. He led her to a living room with massive windows overlooking the mountain views and settled her on a soft couch before sitting across from her. I was born into this life, he began. My father was the head of the park organization before me and his father before him. This isn't something I chose. It was my inheritance, my birthright, my curse. That's not an excuse. No, it's not, but it's context. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. When my father died, I was 23 years old. I was given a choice, take over the organization or watch everyone I cared about be destroyed by the vultures circling for power. So you became a criminal to protect people. I became a leader to control an organization that was going to exist whether I let it or not. And I have spent every year since then trying to move us away from the darkness my father embraced. Jade absorbed his words, searching for deception and finding what appeared to be genuine sincerity. What does that mean, moving away from darkness? When my father ran things, we were involved in everything: drugs, weapons, human trafficking, murder for hire. He held up a hand when she flinched. I've spent 15 years systematically eliminating those elements. We still operate outside the law, but we have lines we don't cross, strict lines. And I'm supposed to just believe that. I can show you proof, financial records, organizational charts, the changes I've implemented since taking over. He stood and began pacing. But first, I need you to understand something else. What? I never intended to fall in love with you. He stopped, his back to her. You were supposed to be a normal thing, a piece of my life that was separate from everything else, something pure that the darkness couldn't touch. How did we even meet? Was that staged? No, he turned to face her. That was genuinely an accident. I was at that coffee shop because it was 3 blocks from a meeting I was trying to avoid. You were there because you were studying for your bar exam. Our paths crossed by pure chance. She remembered that day clearly. He had spilled his coffee, reaching for a napkin at the same moment she had, and they had both ended up with stained shirts and embarrassed apologies. It had seemed like the beginning of a normal love story. Why didn't you tell me the truth before we got married? Because I was selfish. His admission was raw and unfiltered. Because I knew that if you understood what I really was, you would run, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. So you trapped me instead. I married you because I loved you. I kept secrets because I was afraid. Those things can both be true at the same time. She placed her hands on her belly, feeling the baby kick as if responding to the tension in the room. Our child will be born into this life. This legacy you described, this inheritance of violence and crime, is that what you want for our baby? No, his voice broke on the word. I want our child to have choices I never had. I want to build something legitimate, something clean that I can pass down without shame. Is that even possible? I'm trying. I have been trying for years, and having you in my life made me try harder. He crossed the room and knelt before her, taking her hands in his. When you left, when I realized I might have lost you forever, it almost destroyed me, but it also clarified something. What? That I would do anything to get you back, including burn down everything I've built and start over if that's what it takes. She stared into his dark eyes, seeing the man she had fallen in love with beneath all the complications and revelations. You would give up your empire for me. I would give up everything for you and for our child. His hand moved to her belly again. Tell me what you need from me. Tell me what I have to do to earn back your trust. I don't know if that's possible. It has to be possible. I refuse to accept any other outcome. She pulled her hands away and stood, walking to the window to stare out at the mountains. When I left, I thought I was escaping a monster. I thought I was protecting myself and eventually my baby from something terrible. And now I don't know what to think. Turn back to face him. You've done terrible things, haven't you? Even with your lines and your rules, you've hurt people. Yes, he didn't flinch from the admission. I've done things that would give you nightmares if I told you the details. I'm not a good man, Jade. I never claimed to be. Then how can I trust you with our child? Because everything bad I've ever done was to protect the people I love, and there is no one in this world I love more than you and the baby you're carrying. He stood slowly. I know words aren't enough. I know I have to prove this with actions. Just give me the chance. What kind of chance? Stay here with me. Let me show you what I'm building, what I'm trying to become. Let me be there for the rest of your pregnancy and the birth of our child. And if after all that you still want to leave, I'll let you go. You'll let me go just like that? It would kill me. But yes, if you genuinely believe our child would be safer away from me, I'll step back. He paused. But I'm asking for a real chance first, not running at the first sign of trouble, actually staying and seeing who I am. She wanted to say no. She wanted to demand that he take her back to her little coastal town and her simple life and the future she had imagined for herself. But there was a part of her, a larger part than she wanted to admit, that had never stopped loving him, that had cried herself to sleep for months missing his arms around her. That had wondered if she had made a terrible mistake in leaving. I have conditions, she said finally. Name them. Complete honesty from now on. Every question I ask you answer truthfully, no matter how difficult. Done. I want to meet your people, not the cleaned-up versions you show to outsiders, the real people who work for you, who know what you really do. He hesitated briefly, then nodded. That can be arranged, and I want access to everything. Your files, your records, whatever it takes for me to verify that you're telling me the truth about who you are now versus who you used to be. You're asking to see the inner workings of my entire organization. Is that a problem? He smiled slightly, the first hint of warmth since he'd found her in that grocery store. No, it's exactly what I would expect from the woman I married. You never did anything halfway. Does that mean you agree? I agree to all your conditions. He closed the distance between them again. Now I have one of my own. What is it? Let me take care of you during the rest of your pregnancy. Let me go to doctor's appointments and help prepare for our baby and actually be a husband to you, even if you're not ready to fully trust me yet. You want to play house while I investigate your criminal empire. I want to be there for my wife and child while you decide whether you can forgive me for being a spectacular fool who almost lost everything that matters. She laughed despite herself, the sound strange after so many months of solitude and fear. That's quite a characterization. It's accurate. He reached up to touch her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. I've missed you so much, Jade. Every day felt like a lifetime without you. I missed you too. The admission came out before she could stop it. I hated that I missed you. I tried so hard not to. And yet here we are, here we are. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away and pressed his lips to her forehead. It was a gentle kiss, almost reverent, nothing like the passionate embraces they had shared before. Let me show you to your room. You must be exhausted from the journey and the stress. My room. I'm not going to pressure you into sharing a bed with me. We have a lot to work through before we get back to that point, if we ever do. She was surprised and touched by his restraint. The Min-ho she remembered had been possessive, always wanting her close, always reaching for her in the night. This felt like genuine growth. Thank you for understanding. He led her upstairs to a beautiful bedroom with its own bathroom and a view of the mountains. This is yours for as long as you're here. Everything you need should be available, but if anything is missing, just let me know. This is too much. It's not nearly enough. He paused at the doorway. Get some rest. We can start our conversations tomorrow when you're feeling stronger. After he left, Jade sat on the bed and tried to process everything that had happened. 12 hours ago, she had been living a quiet life under a false name, believing she was safe. Now she was in a mountain estate with her estranged husband, facing the reality that her running days were over. She placed her hands on her belly and felt the baby move again. What are we going to do, little one? Your daddy is a complicated man. But even as she said the words, she felt something that had been tight in her chest for months begin to loosen. For the first time since she had run, she didn't feel completely alone, and that terrified her more than anything else. The next morning, Jade woke to the smell of breakfast cooking and the sound of movement downstairs. She dressed carefully, choosing practical clothes that accommodated her growing belly, and made her way to the kitchen. Min-ho was cooking, actually standing at a stove, flipping what appeared to be pancakes, wearing casual clothes she had rarely seen him in before. You cook now? He looked up with a smile that made her heart flutter against her better judgment. I learned while you were gone. It gave me something to do with my hands when the searching got too frustrating. I didn't know you had domestic skills. There's a lot you didn't know about me, and a lot I didn't know about myself until I was forced to confront it. She slid into a seat at the kitchen island. What else did you learn? That I'm completely useless at laundry but surprisingly good at ironing. That I hate sleeping alone more than I ever imagined possible. That work means nothing when you don't have someone to come home to. That's quite a transformation for 7 months. Losing you changed me in ways I'm still discovering. He set a plate of pancakes in front of her. Eat, you're feeding 2 people now. Did you practice that line? I've been imagining this moment for months. I may have rehearsed a few things. Despite everything, she laughed again. Strange to laugh in his presence, strange to feel moments of normalcy when everything was so far from normal. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before she spoke again. I want to start with the files today, the ones I found before I left. I assumed you would. They're waiting in my office whenever you're ready. You're not going to try to prepare me or explain them away first. You asked for honesty. That means letting you see things without my spin on them. He met her eyes steadily. Some of what you'll find is going to be difficult to read. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Why show me at all? Most men in your position would hide the evidence. Because I'm tired of hiding things from you. It cost me my marriage and almost cost me my child. I'd rather you hate me for the truth than love me for lies. After breakfast, he led her to his office, a room filled with organized files and high-tech security systems. He showed her how to access everything and then stepped back. I'll be in the house if you need me. Take as long as you need. You're not going to stay and explain things? You said you wanted to see for yourself. I'm respecting that. He paused at the door. But Jade, some of those files are from before I took over. Please try to remember that I'm not my father. She spent the entire day reading. What she found was complicated, confirming both her worst fears and Min Ho's claims about transformation. The older files from his father's era were nightmarish. Details of operations that had destroyed lives and families, records of violence that made her stomach turn. She understood why he had wanted to distance himself from this past, but the more recent files told a different story. Systematic shutdown of trafficking operations, elimination of drug distribution networks, a slow, deliberate shift toward legitimate business enterprises. She found financial records showing massive investments in legal companies, real estate, technology startups. She found correspondence about community programs funded anonymously, scholarships for at-risk youth, support for organizations that helped abuse survivors. And she found the search records, hundreds of reports from investigators he had hired to find her, mapping her movements, tracking her across the country. The expense alone was staggering. He had never given up. Every time a lead went cold, he had found new resources to continue the search. Every time he had come close, she had moved, forcing him to start over. By evening, her eyes were burning and her back ached from sitting in one position for so long, but she had a clearer picture of the man she had married than she had ever had before. She found him in the living room, staring out the window at the darkening sky. I read everything. He turned, his expression carefully neutral. And you've done terrible things. Before you took over and after, you've made choices that cost people their lives. Yes, but you've also done things that have helped people, protected people, saved people. I've tried. She moved closer to him. I don't know how to reconcile those two realities, the monster and the protector, the criminal and the philanthropist. Most people are more than one thing, Jade. The world isn't divided into heroes and villains, no matter how much simpler that would make everything. That's too easy. You don't get to excuse everything just by saying it's complicated. Not excusing anything, I'm acknowledging that I've done both terrible things and good things, and I'm trying to shift the balance toward the good. He reached for her hand. Is that enough? I genuinely don't know, but it's all I have to offer. She let him hold her hand, feeling the familiar strength of his grip. The search files, you really never stopped looking. I told you, not for a single day. There were weeks when I was convinced you had given up, that you had moved on and forgotten about me. Impossible. You're not someone who can be forgotten or moved on from. You're the kind of person who becomes part of someone's soul. That's a lot of pressure. It's just the truth. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. I know one day of reading isn't going to fix everything, but do you at least understand me a little better now? I understand that you're trying, that you've been trying for a long time. She met his eyes. I want to meet your people, the inner circle. I want to see how they respond to questions about who you really are. That can happen tomorrow. I'll arrange for the key members of my organization to come here. They won't resent being summoned for an interrogation by your wife. They'll do whatever I ask them to do, but more than that, they'll be happy to see you. They know what your absence did to me. She pulled her hand away, needing space to think. I'm going to bed. We can talk more tomorrow. Jade, she paused at the doorway. Thank you for giving me a chance. I know I don't deserve it. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for our baby. A child deserves to know their father, even if that father is complicated. She walked away before he could respond, but not before she saw the mixture of pain and hope on his face. The next day brought a parade of people she had never met but who clearly knew who she was. They arrived throughout the morning, each one greeting her with a respect that seemed genuine rather than performative. Min Ho introduced them one by one, explaining their roles in his organization while carefully noting how those roles had evolved over the years. His second in command was a woman named Alina, sharp-eyed and intelligent, who clearly ran the day-to-day operations with ruthless efficiency. She answered Jade's questions with directness, confirming the organizational changes Min Ho had described. He's not the same man his father was, Alina said when they had a moment alone. I worked for the old regime. I know what it used to be like. He's built something different, something legal, something moving in that direction. It takes time to transform an organization this size, but he's committed to it in ways that sometimes frustrate those of us who remember the simpler days of just taking what we wanted. The financial advisor was an older Korean man named Park Sang-jun, apparently a distant cousin, who had been managing the family's legitimate investments for decades. He showed her profit reports and business plans that painted a picture of steady growth in legal enterprises. The illegal operations have been declining for years, he explained. At the current rate, will be fully legitimate within the next 5 to 7 years. Why not faster? Some transitions require careful handling. You can't simply abandon people who have been loyal to the organization. We're finding legitimate positions for everyone who wants to transition with us. She met security personnel, technology specialists, community outreach coordinators. Each one offered a piece of the puzzle, and the picture that emerged was complex but consistent with Min Ho's claims. By evening, she was exhausted but strangely energized. Your people believe in you. They believe in the vision of what we're becoming. Is that the same thing? I hope so. I've tried to lead in a way that earns belief rather than just demanding it. He looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. What about you? What do you believe after today? I believe you're trying to become a better man. I believe your organization is different from what it was. She paused. I'm not sure yet if that's enough. What would make it enough? I don't know. Maybe time. Maybe seeing how you handle challenges. Maybe just learning to trust again after feeling so betrayed. I can give you time. He moved closer. I can show you how I handle challenges. And I will spend every day for the rest of my life trying to earn back your trust. Why? Why am I worth this much effort? Because you're the only woman I've ever loved, because you're carrying my child, because a life without you isn't a life I want to live. He cupped her face in his hands, and because I made vows to you that I intend to keep, even if I've failed at everything else. She leaned into his touch despite herself. I'm not ready to forgive you completely. I know. I'm not ready to share a bed with you or pretend everything is normal. I know that too, but I'm willing to keep trying, to keep learning, to see if we can find a way forward that works for both of us and for our baby. That's all I'm asking for. He kissed her forehead again, that same gentle gesture from the first night. It asked for nothing and offered everything. The weeks that followed fell into a pattern that became almost comfortable. Jade continued learning about Minho's world, asking endless questions, pushing for details that sometimes made him uncomfortable. He answered everything honestly, even when the truth reflected poorly on him. He showed her the ugly parts of his history alongside the transformation he was working toward. She attended his business meetings as an observer, watching him negotiate with associates and handle problems that ranged from mundane to serious. She saw him lose his temper exactly once when someone tried to propose resuming a drug operation he had shut down. That conversation is over, he had said, his voice cold enough to freeze the room. We don't go backward, ever. The next person who suggests returning to those operations will find themselves removed from this organization permanently. Afterward, she had asked about his reaction. You scared them. Good. Some lessons need to be learned through fear. He softened when he looked at her. But not you, never you. I was scared of you when I first found those files, terrified actually. I know, and I hate that I caused that fear. You seem different now than you were then, or maybe I just see you differently. Maybe both. I was different when we were together before. I was trying to keep my two lives separate, pretending I could be a normal husband while running an empire in the shadows. And now I'm trying to integrate everything. To be one person instead of two conflicting halves. He took her hand. I'm trying to be the man you deserve, even if it takes the rest of my life. As her pregnancy progressed, Min Ho became increasingly attentive. He accompanied her to every doctor's appointment, held her hand during ultrasounds, assembled cribs, and organized a nursery with careful attention to detail. She found herself touched by his dedication despite her ongoing caution. Man assembling a mobile with delicate care seemed impossibly different from the crime lord in those files. You're good at this, she admitted one evening as he finished painting a mural on the nursery wall. I'm motivated. He stepped back to examine his work. Our daughter deserves a perfect room. Daughter, you knew we're having a girl? The doctor told me at my last appointment before you found me. I didn't think to mention it. His face transformed with pure joy. A daughter, we're having a daughter. You're happy about that? I'm happy about anything that's part of you and part of me. He turned to her with shining eyes. Can I touch? Can I feel her move? She guided his hand to the spot where the baby was most active. A tiny foot pushed against his palm, and she watched him fall in love in real time. Hello, little one, he whispered to her belly. I'm your father. I know I have a lot to prove before I deserve that title, but I promise I'm going to try. I'm going to spend every day of your life being the best man I can be. Tears streamed down Jade's face as she watched him. This was the man she had fallen in love with, revealed in his most vulnerable moment. You already are, she heard herself say. He looked up at her with surprise and hope. What? You're already becoming the man you want to be. I see it more clearly every day. Does that mean? I'm not sure what it means yet, but it's something. It's progress. He stood and pulled her into an embrace, careful of her belly, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. I love you, Jade. I never stopped loving you, even when I was furious that you left. I'm starting to believe that. Starting is enough. Starting means there's more to come. She pulled back to look at his face. I have one more question, something I've been avoiding. Ask me anything. If someone threatened our daughter, if they posed a real danger to her, what would you do? He didn't hesitate. I would end them completely and without mercy. Even though you're trying to be better, being better doesn't mean being weak. It means being selective about when to use my power. His jaw tightened. Anyone who threatens my family will discover that the monster isn't gone, it's just leashed. That should terrify me, does it? She considered the question honestly. No, it makes me feel safe, protected for myself and for our daughter. That's what I want. That's what I've always wanted, to be the shield that stands between you and anything that would hurt you. I think I'm beginning to understand that. She kissed him then, the first real kiss since the night before she had run away. It was soft at first, tentative, then grew deeper as months of longing broke free. When they finally separated, they were both breathless. What does this mean? He asked. It means I'm willing to try being your wife again. Really try, not just going through the motions. And our bedroom situation, one step at a time. She smiled at his eager expression. But maybe we could start with actually sharing a bedroom if you promise to behave. I make no promises about behaving, but I promise to only do things you explicitly want me to do. That night, she moved into his room. He held her while they slept, his body curved protectively around hers and the baby growing between them. She woke several times in the night, momentarily confused about where she was, then settling back into his warmth when reality returned. It felt right in a way she hadn't expected. Maybe this was what healing looked like, not a sudden transformation, but a gradual return to something that had always been true beneath all the complications. The labor started 3 weeks early, on a morning that had seemed like every other morning until her water broke. Minho went from calm to panicked in an instant, rushing around to grab bags and call doctors while she tried to reassure him that everything was fine. You're the one in labor, he said desperately. How are you the calm one? Because panicking won't help either of us. The delivery was long and difficult, with complications that required emergency intervention. For several terrifying hours, it wasn't clear whether both mother and daughter would survive. Minho held her hand through all of it, refusing to leave even when medical staff suggested he wait outside. I'm staying with my wife, try to remove me. No one tried. When their daughter finally arrived, small but healthy with a cry that filled the room, Jade felt like she was being reborn herself. All the pain and fear and uncertainty of the past months dissolved in the face of this tiny, perfect person. She's beautiful, Minho said, tears streaming down his face. She looks like you. She has your eyes. Then she has the best of both of us. They named her Una Grace, a blending of their cultures that felt appropriate for who she would become. She was placed in Jade's arms, and Minho wrapped himself around both of them like a shield. I love you, he said, both of you, more than anything I've ever loved in my life. I know. Jade looked at her husband with eyes that finally saw him clearly, all of him, the good and the bad and everything in between. I love you too. You mean that? I mean it. She kissed his cheek. You're a complicated man who has done terrible things and beautiful things, but you're my complicated man and you're Yuna's father. I'll spend every day earning that privilege. I know you will. In the months that followed, they built a new life together, a life that acknowledged his past while working toward a different future, a life that prioritized their daughter while maintaining the empire that provided for them. Minho continued his work transforming the organization, accelerating the timeline after Yuna's birth. He wanted his daughter to inherit something she could be proud of, something that wouldn't burden her with the shadows of generations past. Jade became involved in the legitimate side of the business, discovering talents for strategy and negotiation that surprised them both. She also continued her interrupted legal career, eventually specializing in helping women escape situations she understood too well. Their marriage wasn't perfect. They fought sometimes about business decisions and parenting choices and his continued involvement in gray areas she preferred he avoid. But they fought as partners with the understanding that they would find their way through together. 1 year after he had found her in that grocery store, they renewed their vows in a small ceremony at the mountain estate. Yuna was there in Alina's arms, watching with wide eyes that seemed to understand the significance of the moment. 1 year ago, I thought I had lost you forever, Minho said, holding Jade's hands. Today, I have more than I ever dreamed possible. A wife who challenges me and loves me, a daughter who makes everything worthwhile, and a future that looks brighter than any past. 1 year ago, I thought you were a monster, Jade replied. Today, I see you as a man who is becoming what he always had the potential to be. I'm proud to walk this journey with you. They kissed as the sun set behind the mountains, their daughter cooing happily, their future unfolding in ways neither had imagined. Later that night, as they sat on their balcony watching the stars, Jade reflected on everything that had brought them to this moment. The fear and the running, the discovery and the confrontation, the slow, painful work of rebuilding trust. Do you ever regret it? She asked, any of it. I regret the pain I caused you. I regret the fear you felt when you found out who I really was. He pulled her closer. But I can't regret the path that brought us here. This moment right now with you in my arms and our daughter sleeping peacefully inside, this is worth everything. Even the suffering, especially the suffering, it taught me what really matters. It forced me to become the man I should have been from the beginning. She nestled into his embrace, feeling truly at home for the first time since she had fled months ago. I used to think that love meant never having secrets, never having doubts, never having to work through anything difficult. And now I think love is about choosing each other anyway, seeing the darkness and the light in someone and deciding they're worth fighting for. You fought for me, he said quietly. Even when you thought you were fighting against me, you were fighting to understand. Fighting to find a truth you could live with. You fought harder. You never stopped searching, never gave up hope, even when I gave you every reason to. I couldn't give up on you. You're my heart, Jade, my conscience, my reason for wanting to be better. She pulled back to look at his face in the starlight. Promise me something, anything. Promise me that when things get hard again, because they will get hard again, we'll face it together. No more secrets, no more running. I promise. We face everything together from now on, and we tell Yuna the truth when she's old enough, all of it, who her father was and who he became. He hesitated briefly, then nodded. We tell her everything. She deserves to know her full history, including the parts I'm not proud of. That's how we break the cycle. That's how we make sure she has choices you never had. You make me believe it's possible, a different kind of legacy, a better future. She kissed him softly. It's not just possible. It's already happening. Every day you choose to be different, the future changes. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead, feeling the weight of everything that had passed and the lightness of what lay ahead. 5 years later, Jade would stand on the balcony of their legitimate corporate headquarters, watching Min Ho give an interview about the family business's complete transition to legal operations. Yuna would be in school, learning about ethics and justice, already showing signs of her mother's conscience and her father's determination. The journey from that grocery store moment to this one had been longer and harder than either of them had imagined, but it had also been more transformative than they had dared to hope. Some love stories are simple. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, they live happily ever after. But other love stories require walking through fire, facing the worst in each other, and deciding that the struggle is worth the destination. Jade and Min Ho had walked through fire together. They had seen each other's darkness and chosen light. They had built something from the wreckage of secrets and fear and betrayal. And in the end, they had proven that even the most complicated love could find its way to something beautiful if both people were willing to fight for it. The strongest relationships are not those that never face challenges, but those that choose to overcome them together. Secrets may wound us, but the truth always offers a path to healing. And sometimes, the person we thought was our enemy becomes our greatest ally in building the life we never knew we wanted. That is the story of Jade and Min Ho and little Yuna Grace. A story that began with betrayal and ended with belonging. A story that proves that where we start does not determine where we end. And a story that reminds us all that the most unlikely love is often the most transformative if we have the courage to let it change us.